Season 3, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian was as good as any indie Steam game where the main character and his sidekick mascot character are given a very simplified mission to accomplish, embark on a dark emo semi-side-scrolling adventure where there would be horrible monsters lurking in shadows with an underlying dark lore story, ultimately making it to the very linear end. Nothing in theme was wrong with this, as that's what the entire show of The Mandalorian is really about. However, some viewers may be left perplexed, questioning the purpose of the ongoing story. It feels like a chunk of something is missing. I mentioned this in a review I did of the first episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian. The entire point of the show seemed to be the stoic loner assassin character who is hyper-religious and swore never to take off his helmet, falling in love with a baby Yoda who starts off as a mere mission. The ultimate demonstration of love and character growth is the main character's decision to betray his long-held passion/conviction, the one thing that mattered most to him, his creed, which involves never taking off his helmet. They never make you forget that aspect of the character's belief. When he finally does, he is Mandalorian no more. Oh, but no, wait. The significance of the main character's sacrifice is diminished by the fact that the entirety of the third season seems to be centered on his quest for redemption and to reclaim his Mandalorian status. After all, the show is called The Mandalorian, so it would be kind of awkward if he stayed as not the Mandalorian. The adventures are fun, and it's cool watching him bond with Grogu, but I can understand why many are left wondering what was even the point of everything that happened before. He sacrificed everything that he believed in for love, because he cared about the mini Yoda baby sock puppet thing. His religion and his creed was a symbol of something that kept him from something greater. Love, as I mentioned. His new religion had become protecting Baby Yoda. Sorry, that rolls off the tongue better than Grogu. So then, for the plot setup of Season 3 to be the Mandalorian on his knees willing to risk his life to earn the right to never take off his helmet ever again, and to be loyal to a religion that prevented him from looking into the big black gecko eyes of his tubby bunny and all his close friends he made along the way, it's as redundant as some dude winning the heart of a hooker who swears she'll never go to the streets again and gives up her very wild nature to settle down and love this guy and shows him the ultimate showmanship of her love, which is to get tied down and marry him, take his name, and swear off all others. Only for us to check back in a couple of days to find out that after she's done that and declared her love and loyalty, she's trying so hard to get back in the business again and basically on her knees to her former pimp, pleading for her to hook again under his leadership and his protection and his massive guidance. I know that was one hell of a weird analogy to use, but it's the first one that kind of jumped off my neck. In that light, it sort of undermines her whole display that she did prior. Similar to Mando, the prostitute could still love her husband and desire to remain with him. However, the question remains, what was the purpose of going through all the effort to change her ways and show her love for him, only to return to the behavior that caused the issues in their relationship in the first place? You see what I mean? Okay. Anyone can excuse that, sure. And although some might find it difficult, many are still trying to excuse the very messy start to Season 3, which didn't continue the story at the beginning of Season 3, but at the end of another show that apparently nobody wanted to watch or liked, and that many didn't even know contained what was essentially the first 3 true episodes of Season 3 of The Mandalorian. But where people started to really get tired is when, apart from the fact that we see Tatooine yet again for the 200th time, is in Mando's own journey of trying to seek redemption and going through the mines of Mordor. Sorry, wait, what? Mines of Mandalore. The entire episode requires our main character to be rescued by Bo-Katan. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that properly. Bo-Katan, whatever. Who is off-planet, but apparently very conveniently close to Mandalore.
I don't know how to fight.
I forgot.
Versus...
Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?
What would have been a great opportunity for Baby Yoda, by the way, who strangely enough has grown in leaps and bounds in a matter of just an episode.
There he is! Woo-hoo!
Kill me now.
And who is anything but helpless anymore, even though he wasn't properly trained as a Jedi, is for Baby Yoda to have struggled, but accomplish helping Mando enough to get him out of his situation. I mean, Baby Yoda couldn't get Mando out of his situation, even though Mando was clearly about to die, but yet, while he's trying to escape in this very same episode, not long after, he's able to fully throw a grown aggressive mind troll thing into the air and back off of him. This is the same Baby Yoda that was also able to hold up that rhinoceros thing in order to save Mando when he barely knew how to use the Force much earlier in the show. And dare I say it, at that time, the sound design, the orchestration of everything felt completely different than how it feels now. It seemed like a very wasted effort to shoehorn in Bo-Katan saving Mando, not once, but twice, in his own redemption arc, or whatever this is supposed to be. As much as I still enjoy the adventure, and this episode was much better than the first, the CGI is decent, especially when it comes to the specific types of creatures that are not just people in suits, I couldn't get rid of that incessant nagging voice in the back of my head telling me that this feels like filler, and as though the showrunners are making it up as they go along. Where Baby Yoda was obviously a part of the story early on, he now feels like a gimmick. Something just doesn't feel as authentic as it used to, and I can't put my finger on what it is. Maybe it's the whole structure of the story this season, or maybe it's because of how haphazardly they slapped it all together. Maybe because it feels like a lazy stroll in the park instead of something with real purpose. Maybe it's because it feels similar to the sensation I had when watching Walking Dead, where Rick finally had the opportunity to defeat Negan, but because Negan was such an integral character and everybody loved him, and the show decided to milk the hell out of his dick to the point where apparently the character has completely redeemed himself in such a way that he is now making off to New York. And get this, this blows my tits off my mouth. He's making off with the wife. Going off. Okay, so, sorry. It's hard to say this because it doesn't make any sense. I don't even feel like it's real. He's making off to New York with the wife of the man whose head he bashed in pretty brutally because reasons. Oh, and apparently he's everyone's friend now because why not? Yep, that's a real thing. All the people he ruthlessly killed and tortured. Yep. He, in the finale of the show, is finally able to find peace. It would be similar to the Avengers finally getting the chance to go back in time and defeat Thanos. Even though, bear in mind, those two together up against each other in comparison, Negan seems far more cruel than Thanos. Thanos is at least doing it for a reason he believes is for the betterment of all of life. Negan is just trying to set an example. He was just cruel. Think about that for a second. Negan is worse than Thanos. But imagine the Avengers going back in time to defeat Thanos and instead give him a chance and not go for the head the second time they have the opportunity to. Give him therapy sessions, only to have him end up telling everyone his sad sob story and how sorry he was and how he's the good guy again and he helps them and helps them farm and loves them and talks. I'm sorry, but that's what it's giving. It's, what is the point? Like, The Walking Dead ended for me with the whole Negan thing. So anything after that just feels like they're just fishing along and just capitalizing. That's the best way I could say it. Just strictly capitalizing in a way that they're not even trying to hide that they're doing that. And I wasn't aware that this was the Book of Bo-Katan. We're here for Djarin and his relationship with Grogu, and this was a perfect opportunity for the both of them to be alone and work off each other. But instead, they put all the effort in making Grogu fight to get off the planet, find Bo-Katan, bring her back to the mines, and show her where Mando is, so she can save him over and over. Luckily enough, time apparently moves increasingly slow on Mandalore, and the very well-rendered robot sinister Star Wars version of a Dalek just decides at that moment, when they finally get there, to then start sucking out Djarin's life juice. What was supposed to be a very interesting fight started off that way, but ended pretty quickly when Bo-Katan uses the Darksaber to defeat the creature twice. Once in its smaller robot form, where it got injured and was able to skirt away by just severing the head portion of the robot where the actual organism is. And the second time, when it went back inside the really big robot and it died for whatever reason when she cut that one down. Why didn't its little head vehicle pop off the big one again? It didn't look like she cut right into it, so I was a bit confused about that. But anyway, I guess technically That can count as 2 times she defeated an enemy to save Djarin. Seriously, at this point, when you're using something as a gimmick for the sake of using it as a gimmick because you realize that people like it, people are going to start realizing that's what you're doing. I don't really believe that there was any reason to bring Bo-Katan there. I think Grogu would have been good enough. That at least would have been a reason for him to at least show his usefulness, or at least be used in a way to build their relationship and them being together. While Grogu was once a beloved character, I know he still is for a lot of people, it just seems that using him as a gimmick is no longer sufficient as viewers have caught on to the strategy of exploiting his popularity. It's not fun when the audience is aware that you're doing it on purpose. It's why Baby Yoda was shoehorned into season 3 so quickly, and why we were given only a bare minimum of exposition to explain away the 3 episodes that should have been at the forefront of the season, that explain why Baby Yoda was suddenly back with Mando again, when the cliffhanger left with Luke Skywalker taking him away.
It's complicated. Really, bitch?
The other issue seems to be over-exposition. While it's a great way to update those unfamiliar with the franchise on certain aspects of the lore, it reaches to a point where it seems like the majority of the show is devoted to this. Rather than exploring new adventures with fresh characters and unfamiliar territory, the show has resorted to relying heavily on exposition to appeal to nostalgic factors meant to attract the old audience of Star Wars. What would have been nicer this season would be for both the new fans and the OG fans to experience new places or other places than the ones we've seen over and over again, and using elements of nostalgia to explore those. That would have been a better idea instead of collecting side quests that turned out to be completely useless. For example, the IG droid that Mando wanted by his side to explore Mandalore because he only trusted that droid, yeah, they came out completely empty. It was a complete waste of time. It turned out he got an old model of one of the astromech droids, R2-D2 looking things, that can pilot a ship. That way he can go back and see the mechanic woman. And we know that was because this woman obviously has a deal to be on the show as much as possible because everyone likes her character, so use her. Find as many reasons as possible to get back to Tatooine to see that woman quip. Not only that, but then we find out when he gets to Mandalore that he has the ability to pressurize his helmet when something happens to the astromech droid discount R2-D2 thing.
I'll pressurize my helmet. Seal yourself in your pod. Be right back.
If he had that ability the entire time, why did he need the droid? Also, being that Mando is very versed in traveling the galaxy and the cosmos or what have you mean to tell me there was no other tool that he could have used on hand to do this? He couldn't have used a tool to check while his helmet was pressurized? I mean, for pretty pandy's sake, we have at the moment, in our very primitive stage of civilization, handheld instruments and sensors that we can use to determine whether or not air is breathable for us. Seriously. There are cases where you would not be able to carry a droid with you everywhere, and you mean to tell me that nobody has a handheld instrument that can do this? You mean to tell me that the mechanic lady could not have fitted an instrument onto the ship to find this out? Oh boy.
His droid work. I was hoping to avoid going out there.
Mando claims he was trying to avoid going out there, but that's what you're planning to do anyway to redeem yourself, remember? Then he tells Grogu to seal himself in his pod. I'm guessing that he tells the baby green pup this because he's opening the ship, and if the air is not breathable, Baby Yoda sealed in his pod would be safe. I'm speculating that because Mando thinks he'll be safe in there, that means that Grogu has breathable air in his pod when it's sealed. Mando has a pressurized helmet. What is the problem? I used to feel excited about seeing The Mandalorian, and for the first time when my husband asked me if I was ready to go watch the next episode, I, honest to God, had to actually sit there and wonder if I really wanted to. I actually remember sighing because I just wasn't in the mood. That's not usually something I feel when it comes to The Mandalorian. That's why I realized that something was kind of off and it started to lose its luster like a magic trick after someone reveals how it's done. There seems to be more walking and talking and exposition than anything else. I get there needs to be some form of that, but for 40-something minutes, I can also imagine how annoying this must be for fans of the franchise already, who this obviously is geared towards because of all the nostalgia baiting that references I don't even get, who have to constantly hear Mando explain things that they would know already to Baby Yoda, even though everyone's painfully aware that he's doing it for the sake of the audience, who are not fans of the franchise. Even if the new fans or new viewers did not know this information, the way that he explains it sometimes makes it feel like some sort of Sesame Street program or some interactive encyclopedia, and it treats the audience as though they're idiots. The earlier seasons of Mandalorian was filled with adventure and different characters every week, but now it's all about monotony and routine, which is probably more along the lines of reality, but nobody watches these shows for that. We watch it as an escape, and I know it's ironic, but while there needs to be some element of believability if we're to become immersed in it, you cannot tie it down with the monotony of real life and expect us to hang around. I did enjoy the dragon creatures and the dark minds of Mandalore, and I felt kind of sorry for the troll creatures that got jumped in their own home and killed just because. I know that's a nitpick, pet peeve, but still. The Mandalorians were totally the villains of that part of the story. Imagine you're just chilling in the mines, like no one's bothered you, you're just there. People break into your home, your wives and kids are just sleeping, and you're like, these freaking aliens have broken into your home, and then they just slit all your brother's throats, pull down the floor from where you're sleeping, and just chop you up. Can you imagine? That is probably why those things try to eat people like that. Anyway, the Mandalorian show, at least the earlier part of season 3, it just feels like it's existing to exist right now, and there doesn't really seem to be a lot of emotional investment. After the Mandalorian has been nerfed heavily to allow Bo-Katan to shine throughout this episode, and don't get me wrong, I love me some Katie Sackhoff, it was just a nail in the coffin for me when it came to my interest and my intrigue and whether or not I actually wanted to make the effort to be reinvested in the show. Of course, this is only episode 2, but I honestly have to review the episodes as standalone works since they're almost an hour long. Because if Game of Thrones is anything to go by, you would be surprised, but all it takes is one episode to turn an entire 8-season adventure to horrible, putrid, ungodly, dragon barbecued shit. One thing is painfully clear. There didn't seem to be a broader arc in mind for The Mandalorian at this stage. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.